Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a subject that is, well, everywhere: ethics. We're going to try to build something like a user's guide for it. Think of it as a map to help us all get our bearings in this, let's be honest, pretty complex and fascinating world. So let's just jump right in with a question that I think we've all asked ourselves at some point. What actually makes a person good? Is it, I don't know, about the rules you follow? Or maybe it's about how much you help people? Or is it just about having your heart in the right place? It feels like a huge, almost impossible question to answer, right?
But here's the thing. Philosophers have been working on this for literally thousands of years, and they've come up with a really clever way to make that giant question feel a little less, well, giant. See, they don't try to answer it all in one go. Instead, they break it down. And that brings us to the core idea for today, the three main branches of ethics. Now, don't think of these as totally separate fields. It's much better to imagine them as, say, three different lenses you can look through. Each lens helps you see the same problem, but from a totally different angle.
Okay, so what are these three lenses? They are normative ethics, metaethics, and moral psychology. Each one tackles a completely different type of question. And, just figuring out which question you're actually asking, that's like half the battle. It's the key to thinking more clearly about all this. So let's go through them one by one. All right, first up, normative ethics. Now, this is probably the one you're most familiar with, even if you've never heard the term. You could kind of call it the rules branch, because it's all about trying to figure out a set of principles for what's right and what's wrong. To get just a little more specific, normative ethics is all about the oughts, what we ought to do or what we ought not to do. It's about trying to establish the standards for how we should act and then making real claims, saying this is right or that is wrong. This is where the rubber really meets the road. Okay, to make this concrete, let's use one classic example that will carry through all three branches. Here's the normative question. Is it always wrong to make a deceitful promise? See, that's a direct question about an action. Is it right or is it wrong? That's normative ethics in a nutshell. Now, when it comes to answering that, normative ethics basically has two big schools of thought. On one side, you have consequentialism. They'd say, well, look at the outcomes. A deceitful promise could actually be the right thing to do if it leads to the best possible result for everyone. But then you have the other side, deontology, and they say, nope, the consequences don't matter. What matters is the action itself. For them, some things, like breaking a promise, are just fundamentally wrong, period, because they violate a rule or a duty. And look, when you start talking about deontology, about rules and duties, you absolutely have to talk about the heavyweight champion of this view, the philosopher Immanuel Kant. So Kant came up with his really famous test. He called it the categorical imperative. And the basic idea is this. Before you do something, just ask yourself one simple question. What would happen if everybody did this? Could you honestly want to live in a world where making deceitful promises was a universal rule? Of course not. The whole idea of a promise would just fall apart, right? Nobody would ever trust anyone. And that's the key for Kant. It's wrong because it just doesn't work if everyone does it. Okay, so that's lens number one, normative ethics. But now, let's switch. Let's zoom out a level to our second branch, which is metaethics. And if normative ethics is about the rules, then metaethics is about, well, it's about the rules of the rules. We're not looking at specific actions anymore. We're asking questions about our moral language itself. So a metaethicist doesn't ask, is lying wrong? Instead, they ask, when we say the word wrong, what do we even mean by that? They're digging into the very nature of morality. Are moral truths out there in the world, like facts? Or are they just our own subjective feelings? Or maybe just things our culture made up? Let's bring our promise example back. The metaethicist looks at the sentence, breaking a promise is wrong, and asks, what are you actually doing when you say that? Are you stating a fact about the world, like the sky is blue? Or is it more like you're just expressing an emotion, like yelling, boo, promise breaking? And this really gets to the heart of the main debate in metaethics. On one side, you have the moral realists. They believe that wrongness is a real, objective feature of the world, almost like gravity. It exists whether we believe in it or not. And on the other side, you have the anti-realists. They say, no way. Moral values aren't discovered, they're invented. They're human creations that come from our feelings or our societies. All right, we've looked at the rules and we've looked at the rules of the rules. Time for our third and final lens, moral psychology. This one isn't about the action and it's not about the language. It's about the person making the decision. It's about the players in the game. It's about us. So, moral psychology is all about exploring our inner moral world. It asks questions about motivation, about our emotions, about why we sometimes have a weakness of will. Basically, it's asking, why do we actually do the right thing? And maybe more importantly, why do we sometimes know what the right thing is, but still don't do it? So let's go back to our promise example one last time. The question a moral psychologist would ask is this. Let's say you genuinely believe that breaking a promise is wrong. Is that belief, all by itself, enough to actually motivate you to keep it? Or do you need something extra, like a desire to be seen as a good person, or maybe just the fear of getting caught? And this leads to a really cool debate between what's called internalism and externalism. Internalists think that moral beliefs have a kind of built-in engine. If you truly believe something is the right thing to do, that belief itself gives you at least some push to do it. But externalists say, hold on a second. They think you can totally understand all the reasons why you should keep a promise and still feel zero motivation to actually do it. For them, the knowing and the wanting to do are two completely separate things. Okay, normative ethics, metaethics, moral psychology. Those are our three lenses, our three branches. But the big question is, so what? Why does any of this actually matter in the real world? Why is this map even useful? Well, this map is an incredibly powerful tool, especially for understanding why we disagree with each other so much. Think about any big argument, say over some new law. You might have one person arguing from a normative angle, saying, look at all the bad consequences this will have. And the other person might be making a meta-ethical point, saying, but your very definition of justice is flawed. They're not even having the same conversation. They're talking right past each other because they're asking fundamentally different kinds of questions. But once you have this map, you can start to see what's really going on. You can pinpoint the actual source of the disagreement. It helps you get way clearer about what you actually believe. And you start to see that ethics isn't just one simple thing. It's this incredibly rich, complex, and layered thing. You'll learn how to ask the most important question of all. What kind of question are we even asking here? So, next time you run into a tough ethical problem, you'll have this map in your back pocket. You can stop and ask yourself, okay, wait, is this a question about the rules? Is it a question about what the rules even mean? Or is this a question about me, the player? Now that you have the map, where are you going to explore first?